episode number 709. And we have a special returning guest here, Mr. Steve Wolfe out of Torrance, California with Remax Estate Properties. He's going to update us on the California market, in the Southern California market, what's going on there, and all the intricacies of working and living in California in this day and age. So, but before we get to Steve, Ruth, what is happening in real estate?
I'm going to put you two in the lobby while I put the stats on the screen, and then I'll bring you back. All righty. Yes, we finally dipped to 24 days of inventory, which doesn't bother me because we keep listing homes and selling homes. So as long as the churn is going, we're okay. We finally got up to 144 sales a day for December, which is now exceeding the average for 2021. And we normally see this little surge at the end of the year. Investors especially like to make sure that they get their investment homes. This quarter we've sold 3,985 homes to non-owner occupieds, and those are the investors. And we need that because we have 139 people moving here every day. That's 5.5 an hour, and they need a place to live. And the investors, of course, are putting their properties up for rent. And if you put a property up for rent, it's gone in a week or two. So there's due to the influx of people coming in, and our market is really healthy. The one thing that we have to be careful of, though, is Max and I've been talking about this for years, is the median price. It went from last month, it was $412 to $421 this month. And if you look here, December, it's $428. So that's, yeah. So yeah, the homes aren't getting cheaper, and the interest rates, according to Dr. Young, who is the chief economist for NAR, National Association of Realtors, says that it's going to creep up to 3.7, maybe even touch 4% by the end of 2022. So that remains to be seen, and that will affect the market. How, we don't know, because there is a pent-up demand in this market. And I'm going to briefly tell you what some of the experts are saying about 2022, the market outlook. Housing inventory is poised to recover. We'll see. After the tight inventory of 2021, this year shows signs of meaningful recovery. New real estate listings rose by 5% in 2021. If this trend continues, expect more properties to hit the market in 2022, and we're all praying for that. Expect similar small home gains. So they're saying that the price is going to go up in 2022, which might make the market a little better for buyers than the previous year. However, despite these smaller price gains, the market in most cities will still continue to favor sellers. And then the growth in starter home listings. Housing inventory is shifting towards smaller homes as the share of homes having between 750 and 1,750 square feet has increased about 7% from the 2020s. This could be good news for the millennials looking to purchase a starter home. And as I've said in the past, the people that do the demographics, they're looking to see how many people were born 30 years ago, because those people, how that affects the population. They get married and have babies, and they want to buy a home. So that continues to play into our outlook for 2022. And there are historically low interest rates with mortgage rates near all-time lows. Buying now may mean looking in a very low interest rate. While home prices are high, the low interest rates make it a much more affordable time to buy a higher priced home. You know, they've been in the fours, and I'm sure Max probably tracks this, the 3s and 4s for the past several years. But what you see is that the rents are going up. So now people tend to want to buy instead of renting, of course, because if you buy a home, your net worth in 10 years will be approximately $250,000. If you rent a home for 10 years, it'll be maybe between $6,000 and $12,000. So that's a big difference in your net worth. And cities are making a comeback. Now, this surprised me. The 2021 rise in remote work led to many Americans moving to the suburbs. However, many homebuyers are now looking to live in the city again. So you see this shift is going on. Housing industry data reveals online searches for urban properties has surged. Additional data shows that the urban exodus has slowed considerably and cities are growing again. So anyway, that's kind of like what the gurus at NAR have to say about our market. And now we will get on with our show today. And we're talking about California.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Now, this is interesting. I don't know, Ruth. I still think this is going to be a low inventory seller market for probably 2-3 years here. Just because there's just too much demand right now. The appetite for real estate is so huge right now.
Well,
absolutely.
Let me tell you what I did this morning. I did a check on how much inventory we have. I haven't done this because I usually am so involved in my day-to-day stuff, I don't pay attention to this. But I looked at it today. In Redondo Beach, for the first 18 days of December, we have 82 pending and 19 available.
Wow.
Oh. Think about that for a second. There's no inventory here. There's no inventory. I think what's that?
Right.
Inventory? Yeah.
Do you know what your average sales are for the year?
You mean the prices?
No, the
Number
of
No, I don't. You know, it's really tough in California because if you go to, let's say, Pacific Palisades, Bel Air, Beverly Hills, we still have $20 and $30 million homes that will sit on the market for a year and a half. Okay, so that'll skew the numbers. Then we've got, townhouse and stuff, the lower end that sells for $600,000 and $700,000, but quite often be in escrow before it hits MLS. So it's one extreme to the other. It's really hard. I believe I saw in the paper this morning the median price in LA County is about $765.
Wow.
That's median. I mean, remember, it's hard to find a median priced home. So I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but that's where we're at now. There's no inventory. And as far as, a lot of customers come to me and said, oh, you must be doing great in this market. With everybody, this is my second worst year in 40 years, simply because I'm a listing agent and I can't get listings. That's the problem. And I made a decision, and I should have stuck with it, that I'm not working buyers in this market anymore. I'm just not going to do it. It's a zero-sum game when you work buyers. Okay, I don't know if that's in Las Vegas, but I think I told John and Ruth this story at lunch, and I'll repeat it here. I have a property management client that's wealthy, and she owns 3 estate homes. I mean, well over $2 or $3 million that I manage for her. And she calls me one day and she says, I drove past a place down the street from me. I'd like to add it to my portfolio. Okay, so I looked it up right away. In fact, it was 4 doors down from the place I manage for her right now. And here's the description of the property. It's in North Redondo Beach. It's on a 50 by 100 foot lot. It's 1,100 square feet, built in 1962. It's got a small swimming pool in the back and a double car garage. It's been completely remodeled and gutted. It looks like a modern contemporary home on the inside. Beautiful home. Okay, she wanted it for rental purposes. It was listed at $1,350,000.
How many square feet?
1,100.
1,100 square feet. $1,350,000. All right.
Oh.
Now my buyer is sophisticated and wealthy, and she says, "I want it." I suggested to her she might want to go overbid on this coming out of the gate. So we went in at $1,425,000. Okay, all cash. We offered to pay the seller's escrow and title fees, and I was going to pick up the home warranty plan out of my commission. Okay, I was one of 9 offers. We never got acknowledged.
Wow.
And the property went into escrow at $1,525,000. Okay, it fell out 7 days later, day after inspection, for no reason. He just changed his mind. California, I don't know, Nevada, you can do that within the first. You can just walk away. Okay, he did, and then they never called me back. They don't want to do it with my cash offer. They ended up putting it back on the market and selling it again for $1,485,000, which was $50,000 more than I asked, above asking price. And what really annoyed a lot of people in this whole thing is once their first deal fell out And everybody said, okay, now who are you going to go to next? They said nobody. We're starting the bidding process again because we just raised the price $65,000 on the listing. I mean, the buyer had no chance. And I was all cash I was probably the best one in there. And they didn't want to talk to me. So here's the point I'm making. And I see this on my listings too. 9 of us tried to make money on this deal. 1 of us got paid. I don't want to be in that kind of business. I want to be the listing agent 100% of the time.
Yes, exactly.
All year to get 5 listings, that's going to be my business. I don't want to keep chasing these buyer situations where you have no chance.
Yeah.
Imagine you're only a buyer's agent. This is all you do to make your living. You're probably pretty much driving Uber is what you're doing because you're not going to make any money.
Yeah, exactly right. And I can tell you that unfortunately for the real estate community, especially if you're a listing agent here, this is going to continue for another 2-3 years. There's just too much money out there. There's too much liquidity. There's statistics right now that state that the U.S. household is $2 trillion richer than the trajectory of what the last decade was for them supposed to be. So I mean, there's a lot of money, and there's a lot of foreign money coming back too. If you go to Miami, we should find someone from South Florida, Ruth, to get on the show here because they're competing with international buyers now. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, 50%, value is going up.
You said something interesting yesterday when we were meeting about the due process. And why don't you explain that? Because that people need to hear.
Absolutely. I mean, the U.S. is one of maybe like 5 or less than 10 countries around the world that has a has legal. I don't know. It's exactly called due process, but it's called due process. Yeah. But it's basically legal rights to assets where the government can't just go in and seize your assets without any cause or without any reason, right? It's like us, the UK, France, Germany, Japan. And a few other countries. I'm probably missing out some, but the U.S. is the only place with interest rates. I mean, we scoff at 1.4% in our treasury bond here, but the U.K. is paying 0.5%. Germany, France, Japan are negative in their government bonds. Right. So if you're a foreign national or foreign government or foreign entity, where would you think you're going to plow your money, excess money? Right.
Rental real estate in the United States.
Yep.
Rental real estate in the United States.
Especially Las Vegas.
Right. In Miami, that's why the high-rise condo is recovering like swiftly right now in Miami. It had a low for a little bit, but people are coming back for that money. We're not competing, just with domestic, local people anymore. It's people around the world coming here to buy property up because it's still the safest place to own assets in the world. You're not going to Brazil, right? You're not buying property in China right now. I can tell you that. That was a great idea maybe about 10 years ago, but no one's buying property in China right now, right?
Not even the Chinese.
Exactly right. So, that's the dynamic. And here's my challenge to the real estate community right now is that you got to think creatively right now if you want to survive, because this is not going away. And I'm not going to give the secret sauce away. I've already discussed the secret sauce with Ruth. And if you want to get the secret sauce, you got to call Ruth.
I think we already talked about it in the car a little bit.
You got to think creatively right now.
Yep.
And the key question I want you to answer is, how do you control inventory? That's the question I want the real estate, all you listing agents out there right now. If there's no inventory, how do you control inventory? And so I'll just leave it at that.
Well, what I was telling Ruth I was doing is I have reinstituted all my old farming areas. And I'm moving forward on that because what I'm starting to realize is in the last year to 18 months, a lot of agents have given up on prospecting. They just float on their contacts or they float on their referrals or whatnot because I keep track of what's going out in the mail and things. Almost nobody's doing any mail right now. There's nothing going out in these areas. So I have started doing it again, and I'll be the only one left standing is what it's going to be. I did this before, and nobody wanted to mail, and I just consider it every 2 to 3 weeks, postcards going out, QR codes on them, again, market evaluations and so on. I got a CRM that takes all this information in, starts the drip mailing going and whatnot. I'm starting all this over again. That's what I'm doing. And I don't want to talk about it on here, but I know Ruth and I talked about a method that she's getting listings in her own subdivision, which I floated that past a few people here. Everybody liked it except my broker.
What was his objection to it?
Well, basically, what she was telling me. Can I talk to you? What you don't talk about it?
Sure.
Okay. Ruth said that in her subdivision where she lives, is that Red Canyon Estate? Rock Canyon Estate. That she and John advertised that they'll list anybody's home for $10,000 flat listing fee plus 2.5% on the buyer side. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that I could make money in that business model. Okay. I don't know if my broker here is going to let me do that. I don't know. So there is a company out there called Rex Realty. You ever heard of them?
Yes.
I believe that is their model too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
very close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they advertise a lot on local radio here in Los Angeles. I will tell you though, I've never seen one of their listings.
You've never what?
I've never seen one of their
Never
listings.
seen one of their listings.
Yeah.
Never seen one of them.
Well, we've had success with what we're doing, and with the influx of $1 million home buyers.
Right.
It's amazing. I mean, we get multiple offers. They close within 20, 30 days.
Yeah.
A lot of them are cash. And when we go on a listing appointment, they say, how can you do this for, $10,000 when this agent wants $25,000 or $30,000? And I said, the world has changed. We don't have to spend the money marketing for buyers like we used to. We don't have. A buyer goes on the internet, does all the research. They know what they want. They know where they want to live. Our listing goes up and it sells. So the cost for us to do this has got
zero. Yeah.
Not zero. Yeah.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close. I'm thinking about. I don't drive people around in cars anymore. I haven't had a buyer in my car in probably 6 or 7 years.
You hold an open house and it's sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's the challenge, and I told John this, Ruth, and you weren't part of this conversation. Here's the challenge with that business model, though, right? It works for a select few people, especially in that demographic. When you start talking about $1 million homes, and in your case, Steve, $2, $3, $4 million homes, right?
Right.
A lot of these people are not looking for a discount, right? That the psychology of getting a discount is really not a big part of their mindset, right? What they're looking for is either a value, right? And I told Ruth this too, is like, price is only an objection if there is a lack or present of value, right? People will pay, and there's the book, Robert Cialdini's book called Influence, right? The Psychology of Influence. He talks about actually this, where a jewelry shop actually put jewelry out, right? Priced it very reasonably, didn't sell, but the minute they actually raised the price, like quadrupled, like it was a ridiculous amount of raising the price, and said that there was a limited supply, people bought it in droves, right? And that taught me, though, is like in your market, especially when you're dealing with multi-million, they're not trying to save $10,000, $20,000. It doesn't make a difference to them. In LA, especially, cachet is value. There's value in that, right?
I haven't seen that. I see people who have these high-end homes, 2, 3, 4, 5 million. They're often entrepreneur types, business people, and they'll ask a question like this: what are you going to do for me for $100,000 in commission?
Correct.
And that's a hard question, because these people know how hard it is to make $100,000. They own 5 burger places. They're flipping a lot of burgers to make $100,000. Okay, so they understand money. All right. Now, I'm not saying they don't want to do anything, but they want to know what are they getting for their money. And if I tell them to charge them $50,000 instead of $100,000, which is half commission, they'll understand that better. Okay.
No,
and so
absolutely. But here's my challenge to you here, Steve. Right? If they're presented with 2 real estate agents, one real estate agent that goes in and tells them, like, look, it's easier to do this right now. I can charge you half, blah, 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 right? And that's their sales pitch, versus the guy, the professional, the dude that sells, New York, right? Selling Sunset, all those realtors and all those guys selling high-rise big homes, charging full commissions. They're going to come in and say, this is what you're getting. And if they can sell them on what they're getting, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be the most money, right?
Can I tell you about selling Sunset? I know a couple of those agents there. Okay. They're only getting 6% because they're on television.
Correct.
Okay. Let me tell you, if you go out there,
exactly right,
3.5 or 4 at best. Okay. And those people, we have a place called The Agency. They've been on TV before and whatnot. They have a reputation in LA of not being the best brokers.
Right.
I'm just saying.
I hear you, Steve.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, they're getting the listings, right? The people don't make 100% their decisions on price, right? And I would caution because I work,
Somebody might pay part of that commission too.
yeah, possibly.
Okay,
Possibly.
I mean, it's not
Possibly.
real world. It's not real world.
The trend is, Max, for commissions to go down.
Yeah.
That's the trend. It's all over. Yeah. And so we're just ahead of the trend. That's all.
What we're seeing in Palos Verdes is a lot of the higher end homes, we're seeing 2 and 2.
Yeah.
That's where it's at 4%. That's what we're seeing a lot of that.
Right.
Sometimes you're seeing 1.5 and 1.5 on a really high end home.
Right. So I just caution though, don't go in with price as the first thing, because
Right.
I think the perception of value is gonna be diminished there. Right. I mean, I get that it's not easier, but don't go in with price and don't be the low cost leader.
Well,
It's a tougher road.
But what Steve and I are talking about, because we understand farming, you establish value over time.
Right.
And then when they get ready to list their home, they say, I've been getting Steve's material, for 6 months now. He's established a trust because of his consistency. And that's why you can go in there and get the listing. You're just icing on the cake when you go in with a cheaper commission. But they've already established, when they call you, they normally 81% of the listings, the first listing agent gets the listing. So because they've done their research, and that's in our report that came out in November of a survey of buyers and sellers.
So the only reason I can say with such conviction here, Steve, is I work in the investment management world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like your fees are going down, our fees are going down. The trend,
Mm-hmm.
we all know, like managing $1 billion is no different than managing $100 million. I mean, there's no different.
Well, the other thing about it is that because I work the lower end of LA, lower end meaning, one bedroom that goes for like,
700, right?
675, and a 2-bedroom. And these are neighborhoods that have homeless encampments set up in them. So, I mean, let's start with that. And that'll be maybe 475, 500. There's not a lot of room to move. And I hold to the 6%. It's that or nothing. Because, I mean, what am I going to do this for less than minimum wage?
Right.
I'm not going to do it. And nobody else is either.
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
It's when you get to the higher end stuff that people, I mean, what do you do with a client you're selling a $3 million home and they're using you to buy a $4 million home? And they want you to do the first transaction for 50% commission. You're going to say no?
You're
not.
No, I mean, no, you're not. I mean, I'm not saying that, that you would say no to that. I'm just saying that I don't think, going in with that demographic group of people and presenting price as the, number one value proposition is going to be a long-term sustainable strategy.
But the way that she's doing it, they might call her because of her program.
Potentially.
Yeah, she'll be the first call they get, and she can close them right on the $10,000 deal. And as she said, have her money in her pocket within 20 days.
Yeah.
I agree with Ruth. I mean, I've gone through this over and over and over again. You're competing sometimes. When I find out why I compete with agents for listings, quite often people list with the wrong agent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, they and I'm not only because they don't list with me. They may interview 3 or 4 people, and I know 2 or 3 of them, and I know that we're all good, and one of them is a ding-a-ling. Okay, we know that. Okay, they always go to the worst agent, is what it seems. So I don't really like competitive situations. I like having it going in before I get there.
Right. Well, and that's comes from why we do this show, right?
Right.
Well, you got to build a brand, you got to build a reputation, you got to build attention, capture attention, farm, do all those things. Those things. I mean, that's almost the level of entry now, and it's more important today than it will ever be. I mean, we keep saying this every year, that building your brand, getting attention, having a presence is important. But now it's even more important, especially when prices are dipping, right? And and I can tell you that to finish my story about my industry, that's why there are still people going to Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and all those companies, and they charge premiums. They're not given discounts in our industry, right? There's plenty of, and the advent of these like brokerage houses that they do automatic, investing for you, Betterment, Wealthfront. They're not capturing all the rich people, right? No. Because if price was the only reason why people do service, buy into services, the low cost leader would always win.
Right.
But as you can see, I mean, that's why
Well,
Louis
there's
Vuitton, Cartier, and all those companies.
I think Mike Ferry said, there's the Kias and there's Mercedes-Benz, and they both sell a lot of cars.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, or here's another example: the BMW 7 Series, the 7 Series BMW is on the exact same chassis as the Bentley Continental.
Right.
I don't know if people know that. I mean,
I didn't know that. No.
but it's just a different brand. Maybe a little bit different shape, but the interior, the insides are completely the same. And one's 100,000, the other, maybe now with inflation, 125, 130,000. The other is 340, 400,000.
Right.
So
big difference.
Big difference. But anyways,
so Max, what we were talking about the new propositions in California, and I think Steve's got his finger on that pulse.
Yeah, well, okay. So where we're at now in California, it's actually evolving as we speak. In the last 2 weeks, the LA Times front page has been covering various stories about how the voters here are getting fed up with the nonsense. I think we may be turning. I don't know how soon. I don't know when.
Let's hope so, Steve.
I mean, but there's a lot of disgruntled people here who are paying a lot of taxes and are not very happy. The reason you probably heard on the news about our smash and grab robberies and so on and all this stuff that's going on. This is going on in my neighborhood, by the way, on the Walgreens, CVS. I've actually witnessed some of it going on myself shopping there, and so on and so forth. It's the result of a perfect storm. Okay, and I really don't have much to say about the California legislators about this because the California voters voted for all this stuff. We started about 5 years ago with Prop 47, and that was the anti-shoplifting law. What they were trying to do was stop all this petty criminals going into jail and whatnot, and so they made shoplifting a non-crime under $950. Okay, then in the last election, they had Prop 57, which kind of put the crowning blow on everything. They elected no cash bail in California for a whole series of crimes. Now, I mean, if you kill somebody, you're going to have to pay bail. But I mean, for the most part, both basic robberies, attacks, things like that, nothing's going to happen. They're going to be just booked and released. Okay, so you add those two together, and then you defund the police by 30%. Here you go. That's exactly where we're at. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Right. No, I don't know how people didn't see this coming.
Well, that's what the LA Times is saying.
Yeah.
They're saying, California, you did this to yourself. These are all voter proposition laws. I mean, that you go out and vote for these things, yes or no. Now, when I get to most of the propositions that I look at, I just vote no. I mean, nonsense. You don't even, the answer is no on most of the stuff. Okay. But and the thing that the reason I do that is California propositions are very tricky. I don't know if you have you don't do propositions in Nevada very often. Okay,
we do.
Yeah, but not.
It's not the way Californians are read.
All right. So what they do is they get a proposition and they use it to hide the real agenda.
Correct.
Okay. So a number of years ago, I believe it was even before Trump was elected, there was a proposition out there for California medical. Here's what they said. They wanted to stop some of the opioid addiction. So they wanted to put a system in place that when a doctor wrote, let's say for fentanyl or any Oxycontin, he could go on a database immediately in his office and find out if you're getting that from 2 or 3 other doctors at the same time. Okay, that's what they were voted. That was the proposition that would allow this system to take place. If you read the proposition in its entirety, which is many, many pages, you get to the middle section where it's got nothing to do with the drugs and the control. There's another paragraph in there that says, and oh, by the way, we will then go ahead and limit the tort liability of doctors down to a maximum of $1 million. kind of sneak that in there, Right. So you're never going to sue him for $1 million. And who sponsored this bill? The California Bar Association. I mean, so I'm just telling you, that it's not what it always appears to be. But in these cases, we had these 2 propositions that were voted for. And then during the summer of 2020, our mayor defunded the LAPD by 30%, the sheriff's department by 40% on the demands of BLM. Okay. And that's what he did. And this is where we're at right now.
All right. When you're not tough on crime, I don't know what you can expect.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
like,
the prosecutor will not prosecute a lot of the crimes there right now. The murder rates have gone up. The theft rates have gone up. I feel sorry for retailers. I really
absolutely.
do. I mean, and if you think what's going on here, the high-end retailers all have high-end insurance. Okay. The small mom and pop furniture store or whatnot, they have no chance. I mean, since the riots last year, it's very difficult to get civil insurrection insurance. In other words, when the civil unrest and whatnot,
Yeah.
if your place burns down because of a gas leak, you're covered. If it burns down because someone throws a Molotov cocktail through your window, you ain't
Not
covered.
covered.
I mean, that's just
Part of the exclusionary list now.
So it affects the small person the most. And what I found to be most discouraging right now, I told Ruth, I don't know if she told you, I was in Vegas Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And I was driving all over the place. I hadn't been there in a long time. I was actually shocked. Your strip centers are open. Your stores are open. Things are moving. It's not like that in LA.
We're tough on crime here. Give credit to Joe Lombardo
you
here.
guys are tough on crime, and you should be tough on crime. You don't have smash and grab robberies there. They're not going to tolerate people going to the Caesar's Palace shops and going into Coach and running out with bags. No, they're not going to tolerate that.
No.
Max, you're echoing.
When Steve talks, it's coming out of his speaker. That's why. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So anyway, so that's where we're at with the status on this stuff right now. The sheriff is going to be reelected. Our mayor apparently is going to India. Biden sending them to India to be the ambassador there. So I think he's well suited for that job. I think he needs to go to the slums of Mumbai and see what he knows what this is like.
Right. He understands.
Right.
All
right. So a little of the good news here, and I don't know where it stands. They cleaned up Venice Beach completely. The sheriff
really?
there against city council rules. He just went there and did it.
Fantastic.
And they relocated people, and he was interviewed several times on television during the process, and he was saying, he said, I hope people can see the magnitude of the problem. He said, because we're taking people out and putting them in shelters, but they're leaving the shelters. They don't want to be there. They want to be out on the streets. So you're playing whack-a-mole here. You stop this city, they go to the next city. You stop that city, you go to the next city. They're not solving the problem. We have, as of last month, 86,000 homeless people in LA County.
Wow. So, Steve, I pulled this article from the LA Times the other day.
It's the first time I ever saw it. I haven't seen the article, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. They're going to get a new tax if your home is over $5 million.
They got to vote on that. Let's see how that voting goes. Again, it's not going to affect most of the people in California. So you see that little picture you put up there of that? Okay. We have those all over Los Angeles, and there are some in my neighborhood. And when these things pop up, you can't touch them. That's the thing. You can't move them. Can't do anything. We had a situation. It was in our do you guys have Nextdoor app?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lady was talking about Nextdoor app. In fact, she was a property manager at one of our local management companies here. They had an 8-unit building down in South Redondo, in which a homeless person, was relieving themselves on the front steps every morning. And people living there were upset, and the manager was upset, and multiple calls were made to the police department, and they took her away, and she came back because they legally can't do anything. And finally, the police officer told the manager, he said, ma'am, he says, you're going to have to get used to the new normal in Los Angeles. And I don't accept that. People are urinating and defecating on your front doorstep, and the police say this is the new normal. That's not new normal for me.
So, I mean, there's all this talk about people migrating out of California and business migrating, right? And then there's other media outlets that say this is all a fallacy. Now, what are you hearing on the ground in the boots with your clients, among your neighbors, about this subject of migration?
Okay, I will tell you what, we had a guy come to the office meeting who is an accommodator for 1031 exchanges, trying to sell us on his services. He's doing a Zoom meeting with us. And he told us that since the pandemic, on the 1031 exchanges, almost 70.5% of the money in these accounts are being wired out of state. That should tell you something right there.
Yeah.
They're divesting of their assets here and taking them somewhere else. And he says the biggest states the money's going to is Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Ohio, Illinois, in Tennessee, and Florida.
Oh, Illinois is a surprise there for me.
That's where the monies are going. Most of them, they're not staying in California, they're leaving. We have lots of old, apartment buildings that have been here for decades and have been in a family trust for multiple generations. Those are coming up for sale right now.
Wow.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, people have had enough. I mean, the rules for owners and tenants in California
too hard. It's
too hard.
It's just too hard. I got a friend of mine who owns 300 rental units in Long Beach and Inglewood, and he right now, he said he is running 30% non-performing and expects it to go to 40% by the summertime.
My God, he's losing thousands every month.
He's losing $35,000 to $40,000 a month on this thing here. And the issue that he's having is quite simple. They're not paying still from COVID. He brings them into court. The judge asked a question. Has somebody here applied for the CARES Act or whatever they need to get those funds? The tenant says either yes or no. The tenant says yes. The judge says we'll put this here on hold until we get the results of that inquiry. If the tenant says no, he says we're going to put this on a further docket until the tenant can apply for all the aid. Then the tenant doesn't apply for the aid, and to keep going and going and going and going. Nobody moves, nobody gets any money, and it just keeps going and going. I had a talk with him this week because he's one of the partners on my airplane. Okay, I know him really well.
Yeah, you
and
do.
He's saying to me, it's difficult.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
And those are the investors. I think a lot of people aren't leaving California. This is why we also realize too, because they're living here for free. Yeah, right?
Right.
Well, unfortunately, the most productive of people are leaving California, right? I mean, the business owners, the upper middle class people who eventually own businesses. That's where all the tax revenue is going to come from. Eventually, there's going to be no tax revenue to collect in California to pay for all these programs.
That's the thing, and I think something else has happened also. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I had a listing in February on a place called Holly Park, which is close to LAX, not real close, but it's in the general area there. It's I would say it's a middle class, working class neighborhood. And I had to go from my house to that several times back and forth. And we have a main drag here. I don't know if you're familiar with LA. It's called Crenshaw Boulevard. You ever heard of Crenshaw Boulevard in LA? Okay.
Yeah.
And it goes
a lot of rap songs have that boulevard.
All right. So we go from Imperial Highway, which is near LAX, all the way down to where I am on Manhattan Beach Boulevard. Okay. It's about a 6-mile stretch of 4-lane street, a busy street. And it's got just strip centers and businesses all the way in both directions. In February, I counted on the east side and the west side, going there and coming back, 130 closed businesses.
Wow. In
February. I went back there, about half of them have come back, but as new businesses. And the old ones are gone. And other ones are still vacant, all boarded up, all there, and they're just not coming back. See, and when all this is going on, you drive down the street, see all these closed up businesses, then you'd see Taco Bell, Burger King, McDonald's, Del Taco, Craig and Auto Parts, all of the franchises are still there. The fast food franchises are still there. But the mom and pop stuff is very quickly going away. The mom and pop restaurants are going away. A lot of them can't even get help now.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. My wife and I don't go out to dinner that much because the service is so bad. I mean, they just can't get staffed. I don't know where all the people went. I think there's a lot of people sitting around here not working. A lot.
Yeah, I mean, entry-level staff. I mean, no one's going back to work for less than $20 an hour right now.
Yeah, well, it's more than that. All right. So I got a client. He's bought several $1 million homes from me, and he owns 5 fast food restaurants. They're not like McDonald's. They're independent. You know, the Greek places where they serve everything, grinders and Subways and hamburgers and hot dogs and fries. They serve everything there. Okay. He owns 5 restaurants. They're very successful. They're very, very wealthy. He was telling me that after the pandemic, number one, he does not want to go back to in-store dining. He wants everything to be to go. He doesn't want all the nonsense going on in the store anymore. And it's funny, my accountant said he's got a client who owns 40 Taco Bells in California. He just petitioned the Taco Bell Corporation, the Lum Corporation, to allow him to get rid of all his in-store dining. He doesn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
He wants internet and drive-through and walk-in only. He doesn't want people in the store, and that seems to be a real big trend here with restaurants.
I think that, I see that too.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's a difficult proposition for a lot of people trying to stay in business here. So I think what's happened is a lot of people, in my opinion, on these small mom and pops, they never made a lot of money. They did okay. They made a living. They kept the food, and they get to the point with the pandemic, they just say, the hell with it. We're going to retire. Take our Social Security and just, close.
Do something else, right?
My CPA told me, this was just this couple of weeks, he said he's lost about a third of his business. But he deals with a lot of higher end people, and he said a lot of his clients are doctors and surgeons and specialists like that. He said typically, and he's based in San Diego. That's where my CPA works. Okay, he said basically, he said 60. He said when the pandemic hit, if you were a 65-year-old or older physician with a 401k of $20 million, you had no reason to continue your practice anymore. Basically, is what he
Zero.
said. Yeah, he said it's too much liability, too much risk, too much protocol. He said so. These guys just said, "The hell with it, I'm done," and they just walked away. Is what he had lost. So now he says now they're all doing is drawing money on their 401ks. It's a simple tax return. It's not a big deal. They're not running payroll for the staffs and all the insurance. That's all gone. And we've had a number of doctors just walked away like that. They said pandemic's too hard to run an office. We just don't want to do it anymore. And if you can afford to retire, you will.
Yeah. And you just made an interesting point right here. This is the reason why there's staffing shortages across the country, because you're absolutely right. Why would I risk, as a doctor who built a career and have $20 million? Why would I continue working at this point?
You're 65 years old. I mean, maybe you're going to work till 70 or 75 or whatnot, but you figure, what the hell at this point?
Right. Heck, 60. If I mean, we're probably seeing that more and more. That's the shadow stats that everybody doesn't realize what's happening.
And that's what we're seeing here. As far as LA goes, we have a little glimmer of hope here. The electric are getting tired of the nonsense. They really, really are. We're getting tired of. I had to drive somebody to the airport the other day. Oh my God, the encampments on the on ramps and the off ramp. You have to roll up your windows, dude. The stench is coming. It's so terrible. And they don't do anything about it. Maybe they'll clean them up what that picture is. It's all along the highway going into the airport. And, and people who are living in these neighborhoods are getting really, really, really fed up with it.
And I'm looking at the long term too, 5-10 years out from now. I'll be surprised, that we may have a shortage of doctors coming out of medical school, just because, you're going to $500,000 to maybe even $1 million in debt. Right, to go to medical school, you exit, and then most of them make anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 to start.
It's not a big paying job like it used to be.
Exactly right. And now you're laden. The whole promise is to be able to open your own practice and run your own business, and that's where eventually the money comes from.
Right. Well, when I was growing up, my parents were very close friends with a family, and he was an ophthalmologist in Chicago, and his specialty was cataract surgeries. Okay. That was a license back in the 1960s, Ruth. That was a license to print money. You know that, right? The insurance companies paid whatever you asked. They had this family. I couldn't believe how much money they made back in the 60s and 70s from his medical practice. His son, who's actually out here right now, who's a friend of mine. I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago. He was telling me, he said, "Do you know that my dad had an ophthalmology practice that grossed over $2 million a year in 1967?"
Wow.
Can you imagine what that was like at that time?
Yeah. That was the promise, right?
That's what that was the promise. You went to medical school, got a specialty, and opened up a practice in Chicago with 2 other offices, and made a lot of money.
Right.
And you can't do that now.
No, and what are they doing? That's the thing. No one's looking at the long-term effects of all these policies and regulation and stuff like that. It's like they're discouraging people who are the most productive, people who offer the best services, and they're going to do something else. It's not worth it.
That's why you're going to see. That's why you see shortages here. So my friend who owns that fast food restaurant, he told me something I found astonishing. He has 200 people on payroll. I don't know how many people are on now. I think it's less than that, of which only 5 of them are full time.
Wow.
And his employees don't want to work full time. They want part-time so they can stay on the Section 8 and the EDB and every they get all the benefits while they're still working. So he says he doesn't have to pay medical insurance for all these people. They're on California Medicaid instead. Now, here's what he told me that really shocked me. Because you walk in his restaurant, there's all the stuff's up on the board up there, okay? So he said, I want one of those, one of those, one of those, and the lady writes it down, rings it up, and puts it for cooking, right? That job that lady has here, he said he can't find anybody for less than $28 an hour. That's what he said.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, at least somebody who will come in consistently.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the story in LA right now. I have a sense that the word is out that people are unhappy. Now, what's going to be coming from that, I have no idea. I mean,
and what's the population of LA? 15 million?
In LA County, the whole county is probably closer to 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's take a look. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah.
So 2019, it was 10 million.
Does that include Ventura? That probably I might be thinking of like the entire Southern California area, Ventura County.
It's just LA County.
Orange County and LA County. Okay, so you get all three together.
LA County.
It's probably about 30 million. They said that 12 million people maybe in LA, and out of that way about 87,000 homeless.
Wow.
Do you guys have homeless shelters in Las Vegas where people can go?
We do.
Okay.
We do. Yeah.
And people
so here's the surprising thing. Like what's crazy is that we drove by one here in Vegas, right? And I was expecting like encampments. Actually, there's a homeless shelter.
No, that's not what you get here. We have little houses. There's one a mile from my house right now, and it's 20 little houses. There's a security officer there, a social worker there. It's hard to get in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to go there and do prostitution and sell drugs and heroin and everything else, you're not going to get in. You're not going to get in. This is for people who need to get off the streets and need to get moved on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that our encampment does for our area, it brings a lot of people down who want to get in, who then can't get in, and then end up living on our streets.
All right. No, I mean, the homeless shelter here in Vegas, the one I drove by, was like no encampments, and it was on a huge lot.
Yeah.
Like, where an encampment could take place. I was like, I told my wife, if this was in Portland or California, this place would be like, tent city right here. But no, I mean, they're tough on crime, and Las Vegas takes care of their taxpayers.
They should. But I mean, the future of real estate, I mean, in California, is still going. We still have more buyers. Like you said, the demand is extremely strong. What we're getting now is a lot of gentrification, a lot. South Central Los Angeles and the ghetto there, that's all been cleaned. And the prices, and people are buying up lots there left and right. The people that really made out the best is anybody who held on to their property in Inglewood. That was the lowest price for a long time. Now you got SoFi Stadium there, right, and whatnot, and the Super Bowl's coming here, and all those surrounding properties have just gone through the roof. If you were able to hang on, you made a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, all that's going to do is continue to drive out the lower income people to other places, right?
But there's no place for them to go. Right. This is what I'll mention this too. This is when that discussion we had, Ruth, about having not being able to afford to sell. That's one of the problems with getting listings here in California. A lot of people can't afford to sell. And I was giving her an example. I work a condo complex where the prices are running $400,000 to $500,000. That would be the top dollar. So somebody calls me up a postcard and says, "Hey, I've been getting a postcard for a while. I want to sell my home." First question I ask them is, okay, where are you moving to? And they say, "Oh, we're going to move into Torrance." And what are you looking for there? "I want a single family home." I said, "What's your price range?" "Oh, about anywhere from 6 to 7. Not going to happen. It started at $1.2 million. So they're not going to find what they want there.
Right.
So usually I send them some properties to just go out and sample, and they call me back and say, "Okay, you know what? We're not going to buy. We just want to get out of this condo. We're going to put our money in the bank, and we'll go rent for a while." Yeah. Fine. Where do you want to rent? And we go through the same discussion, find out where they want to rent is about $3,500 to $4,000 a month. And where they're living now in their condo, PITI, association fee, and everything is $1,800.
Right. Well, ask him if they can work remotely and move to
Well,
Las Vegas.
again, so my sellers are people who are moving out of state to work remote. Those are the sellers. Anybody else is saying, well, now we can't afford to move, and they're stuck.
Mhm.
Because a lot of them, I'm finding some of these sellers I have, if they had to come in and buy their home today at today's price, they wouldn't qualify.
Right.
You know, I had dinner 2 nights ago with an investor from California, Los Angeles,
Okay.
and her rent, because they don't want to own because of the taxes and things of that nature. Their rent is $7,000.
Do you know what part of LA they are living in?
She told me, but I don't remember. I don't know what LA that well. But I mean, that's obscene.
I've got tenants that are paying $7,000. I got tenants that are paying $9,000 a month.
So
She and her husband have 3 businesses, you know, so, and they work hard, and they want to invest here in Vegas for their future and eventually move here.
Okay. They
Right
don't
now,
want
they're
to.
not ready to retire. Pardon me?
They don't want to invest in California.
No,
No,
absolutely not. No.
Well, I think anybody who owns rental property here, if they're smart, would liquidate it and move out. I mean, if you want to live here, own your home, that's the one thing. But rental property, they just keep coming for you and coming for you and coming for you. The rent control, and right now we have statewide rent control in. Remember that fourplex I was telling you about, Ruth? She called me yesterday. She really wants me to take it, and I think I'm going to do $150 a door, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Because I was telling her, a lady wants me to take over her fourplex management, okay? But she's mismanaged it for many, many years. And there's rents that are probably 50% below fair market value.
Oh, wow.
And because of California statewide rent control, it could take years to get it up to where it's supposed to be. Right now, this year, we're limited to 8.6% increase only. So I can, and then next year you got to hit it again and again and again and again to get those prices up. So unless somebody moves out, but when somebody's paying below market rent, they're not going anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
No. The laws here allow us to raise the rent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you can do that in California.
Oh, we can raise the rent, but it's first of all, you can never go more than 10%.
You can't.
Can't go more than 10%.
Yeah, we don't have a cap.
Yeah. So if you rent for like $6,000, you're going to get another $600, and then the next year you get maybe another $700, but you're stuck. And then it depends. If you have a single family home, you're not subject to statewide rent control. But if you have more than 2 units you're renting, you are subject to statewide rent control. You know. So and then there's what's called just cause eviction. You can't sometimes have a tough time getting your own property back without paying relocation fees. And this is why people are leaving. This is why nobody wants to invest here, because you're
right. It's not favorable to owners.
No, it's very difficult. It's very, very, very difficult. And I remember when I was talking to you guys last time, I was telling you about the new law that allows you to build these huge skyscrapers on residential lots. Do you remember that? Okay, I'm going to follow up with that one. Okay. All right. There was a neighborhood right off, I don't know if you know where it is, it doesn't matter. It's National Boulevard and Sepulveda. It's pretty much considered LA, okay? And there was about 16 single family homes in a little cul-de-sac that was in there. And a developer bought the entire thing under the new zoning laws, okay? So he got rid of all these single family residential homes, and he built this 26-story apartment complex with retail below and units up above. And in order to get this deal, he had to go ahead and make 30% of them low income, Section 8, and the whole deal. Okay. At the same time, he's trying to rent these things out as high-end luxury units, the regular ones. Okay. Well, my friend from Indiana, who I told you about earlier, when he moved out here, he moved into one of those when they were brand new and they were leasing them for brand new for the builder. Okay. I ended up having to counsel him a little bit because he had to move out. Here's what he said you get in these buildings. Now, this is brand new from the builder, new management company. No one's ever lived there before, and they're trying to rent maybe 1,000 units. Okay. He said after moving in, he said the hallways stink of marijuana. Every floor, he said, it's going on. They're renting to UCLA students who are partying there every single night. And then on top of that, you got the Section 8 group that are moved in there, 30%, which is 300. And he said because of all the crap going on there, there's ambulances and police cars at the building every single day. There's shootings at the buildings every single day. And he said where he gave up was when people who lived in the buildings waited for other people to go to work to break into their apartments. This is the new zoning they want to do. This is neighborhoods reimagined in Los Angeles. And so I was having lunch with him. He says, "You're a manager." He said, "I need to know, how do I get the hell out of this thing?" Because he got in there with no security deposit or anything, because they were trying as incentives and so on. And so he didn't be there anymore. And when he told them that he was leaving and handed him the keys, they sent him an $11,000 bill and said, "You owe us, for this and for that, because you have 6 months of unpaid rent and this and that, and you owe us all of this money." And then he was starting to tell me some of the things happened to him there is that there was apparently a gunfight in the unit below, and a bullet came up through his floor into his ceiling.
Wow.
Okay, so after that, that's when he left. So I suggested to him that he follow up with a letter to the management company that says that he's not going to pay them anything, and that if they back down, he won't go on social media with this. And guess what? They did.
They back down.
They backed down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But my point is, these are what these projects look like. And this is what you got to look forward to in those kind of projects.
Right. I mean, what do people think if they're going to, anyways, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to. Steve.
And if you look at the building from the outside, you would think it's a luxurious building. I mean, that's what it looks like.
Right.
And it probably is, but and they were trying to put people in there as fast as they could. They really weren't qualified. My friend's feeling was there were a lot of people living there who couldn't afford to live there. Mm-hmm. And that's what I got. So I know that type of housing probably isn't going to go over well.
No.
And
you're not going to be able to, mix top end people paying $6,000-$7,000 a month.
Which is what he's paying $4,500, which was
45, $4,500, $5,000.
A lot of money. So now the big thing that's in LA is non-smoking buildings for everything. So in other words, in the building he's in now, you cannot vape, you cannot smoke pot, you cannot smoke cigarettes. If you want to do an edible, that's your business. But and if you violate this and they smell it or see it, you are evicted. That's it. End of story. Because everybody's under the same rule. It's not they're not saying you can do this and another person that. Everybody's under the same thing, and those buildings are popping up too because people want to live in those environments.
Yeah, that'd be very desirable.
So your eviction laws are pretty good if you can get somebody out for that.
Yeah,
violating the lease. But they're not good if you don't have money to pay rent.
Right. All right. So here's what's going to happen. Kind of what you guys do when you get into court. The judge is going to say, "Has anybody here applied for public assistance through the CARES Act or anything else?" And if the defendant says, "Yes, I'm waiting to hear," the judge is going to say, "Come back when you've went to got the results." You're not going to get anything out of it. And in fact, the court officer, there's a referee that you talk to before he's the one who works for the judge that vets the cases. He'll tell you before you go in. He says, "You're wasting your time," because it's not going to happen.
Right.
Crazy. And then I said the only thing that we've had through the pandemic that was any semblance of common sense was my lawyer told me about this. He says he has orchestrated 3 emergency evictions that took place in 3 weeks. And that was a case where the sheriff's department reported methamphetamine labs going on in apartments, and he said they had to clean them up and there was no choice, and they could execute warrants and evictions within 2 to 3 weeks and get those out of there. Personally, it surprised me it even took that long. Right.
Right.
But that was it. Where, as opposed to not being able to do anything at all.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So pretty much, I'll just give you a real rough workout how I made out through the pandemic. During the first 6-8 weeks of the pandemic, 30% of all my management accounts defaulted. Okay, first 6 weeks. Then a lot of people got caught up, and I ended up with 3 people that had major problems. And where it stands right now, at the worst of it, I was owed about $38,000 of client money. And as of right now, I have collected 100% from one client, owed me 12, and everybody else is paying me monthly installments. So none of my owners lost a dime in this entire thing.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, good news. Fantastic.
Yeah. But however, there are a lot of buildings out there. The average right now in LA, according to my friend who I told you owns 400 units, and he talks to other managers out there who own, run those kind of things. Right now in LA for apartments, just basic apartments, you're running about 30% non-performing across Los Angeles.
Wow.
When I say non-performing, people are sitting there not paying.
Right, not paying. Right.
You can't get them out. You can't do anything.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, Steve, and we'd like to have you back 6 months from now to see where things go. And I know midterm elections are going to be a interesting topic next year. So appreciate you coming on.
I had a chance to get rid of Gavin Newsom, a couple months ago, and 75% of people decided that was not a good idea. I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah. Blue is very strong in California.
Well, and I'm going to end with this because I was talking to some friends of mine who came in from out of state for vacation, and I told them I think California is lost, permanently lost, and the reason is this: when you become the victim of your own policies, we talked about this at Ruth at lunch, right? When you become a victim of your own policies and you double down again, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And what I told her, what you guys didn't know about because the press won't talk about this, Gavin Newsom was assaulted by a homeless person in Oakland. I don't know if you know that. It was in a newspaper in a very small section down in the corner. We talked about that. And this is another thing that actually made the news a little bit. Barbara Boxer was beaten and robbed in Oakland also. Now, this is their policies, and they're doubling down even after they've personally been injured. Yeah. To me, that means California's lost, right? I mean, where do you go from there?
Yeah. So,
well, Steve, you're always so interesting.
Yeah, great to have you on here again.
We're so blessed to live in Las Vegas.
you just made my day. My decision to move out of California 10 years ago was great.
When I was driving around Las Vegas, I told you and John, I said, you're open. Every strip center went by. I was on, out on Grand Champions, and I was out West Charleston, West Sahara. I was out on all those streets, on Durango. All these strip centers, you guys are busy out there.
Yeah.
You're doing business. We're not doing business here.
No.
That is it. The first thing you'll see when you get off the plane here at LAX and start driving away, you'll see a lot of boarded up gates of closed business and things that are just not open.
Yeah. Well, this morning,
I will tell you, you go to the wealthier areas within 1 to 2 miles of the beach, you don't see any of that. Everybody's still fully busy. You just get away a little bit, and it's a whole different world.
Well, today they announced that New York City is basically shutting down, all activities for Christmas. And there's people that have planned to go, to the shows over the holidays and the Rockefeller Center and they just said, nope, we're not, you have to cancel everything. 40 some shows. It's just unbelievable. And people have made plans, well in advance to go there. And now if they go there, they can't do anything. So I don't know. I don't understand. If we can thrive here, and like you said, everybody's open for business. People are coming here.
The deli that we were at that one day, they were packed.
They were packed.
Yeah.
And last night we went to dinner. We went to see Isaac Hayes.
I saw that.
No. Chris Isaac.
Yeah.
I know I was going to say it wrong. Anyway, the theater was packed.
Yeah.
The theater was packed. We went and had sushi at the Wazuzu. Packed. We had to wait 1 hour for reservation. And then when we got in there, we had excellent service. We had 2 waiters waiting on us, 4 of us. And then I wonder what's going on in the rest of the world, like Los Angeles.
Well, so, we have a joke, because I have my general contractors who work for me on my buildings, okay? And we have a general joke between us. Every fast food restaurant in LA is the same thing. 1 person doing everything and 17 people in line. That's every because he's driving around with his crews in their trucks and they're stopping for lunch and whatnot. And that's what he said. That's what you see. Yeah. That's just how it is. It's very difficult to get anybody here to work. And I'm trying to figure out how everybody's surviving now at this point.
No.
My friend tells me they're surviving because they're not paying their rent.
Right. You got 30% underperforming. Those 30% of people who would normally be working, right,
Yeah.
to pay their rent. I mean, they're not.
Yeah. And,
So, I
and,
mean-
he was telling me, he said the biggest problem he's having on his large apartment building, he's got sometimes 20-unit buildings. And he says 1 or 2 people tell everybody in the building they don't have to pay rent. He said he got a call from somebody this morning who was trying to get involved with a tenant, because usually his managers are involved. He's got lower level managers to take care of that. He got involved. He said the tenant was telling him that the president's going to pay his rent.
Well, you know, Steve,
Oh,
I want to
man.
thank Tammy for her great comment. And for the real estate agents out there that live in Las Vegas, you know, you've just got a wealth. If you listen to the show, you just got a wealth of information about California, and it might give you some insight when you have those California buyers and that you're selling real estate to here, and you can kind of give comparisons, because you've got a lot of them this morning, because we are thriving here. And I know we still have high unemployment, but I think over time that's going to handle itself. The low inventory, we'll see where that goes.
Well, before I go, I would tell you, Ruth, I told you I had those meetings with my managers, and I'll leave this with you guys, that the Oakwood company manages 1,075 units, all townhomes. As of Wednesday, they had 3 vacancies.
Yeah, and they're paying their rent?
Yeah. He says right now he's got 4 non-performers, 3 vacancies out of 1,075. It's huge.
And what's the average rent there?
There isn't an average rent, Ruth, because it's going up so fast we can't keep track of it. I'll give you a quick example. We just turned a 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome that I own, okay, over at Charleston Court. The person who rented it a year and a half, 2 years ago, paid $1,150. Okay. We went to somebody else who didn't do well. We had to actually evict him. He was thrown out in November, actually moved into his car. That's the person I told you about. Okay. He was paying $1,275 when he got evicted. We just turned it and re-rented it $1,675.
Wow.
You do a percentage. I mean, you don't see games like that. I mean,
Nope. But people are moving here, and so
and what my manager told me, exactly what you guys are telling me. He said that people are coming from California in droves. They're moving out of $3,000 and $4,000 rentals that are tiny, and finding out that Oakwood is a great deal for $1,600 a month.
Right.
And he says we can't keep them full. So that turn that I looked at on Tuesday, they had it rented last Wednesday, but the person backed out. They rented it again on Friday, but that person didn't qualify. And then on Monday, before I got there, they rented it again, and then the person's moving in this weekend. I mean, there's that much action out there that if somebody walks away, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You finding that with your rentals?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have 1 available property right now, and that's only because it's overpriced. I mean, it's really overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
But they keep coming down,
Right.
and it'll get rented.
Yeah. I mean, in California, we have homes that are on the market for 60, 70, 80 days, but they're overpriced.
Yeah.
I mean, and the minute you hit the right number, I mean, there's multiple offers instantaneously.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's it. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done. It's top of the hour. I need to
invite me again. This was good.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going on in training this week, Ruth?
So Monday we have our law class, and Jimmy has rewritten, or we've submitted this new class and got accepted by the division. It's fantastic. And it's from 10 to 1 on Monday at 8400 West Sahara, or you can Zoom. You still get credits for live classroom at CE. And Jimmy is so good. This is the last class of the year. And then we start up the first week of January. We have a class every week for the whole year. So life is good.
Yeah, it is.
In Vegas.
Okay, Ruth, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, Steve, thank you for joining us. Everybody else have a great week, and join in to Monday for Ruth at 9 a.m.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.